When reporting on religion is done well, it can give us this incredible window into what makes people tick. But when it's done poorly, wow. The mistakes can be more than just a simple typo. They can show a complete lack of understanding. Let's dive right in with a pretty powerful and real example.
Okay, so check this out. This is an actual correction from the Associated Press. On the left, you see what the reporter wrote, where they sit and shiver. But on the right, that's what was actually said, where they're sitting Shiva. I mean, they sound almost identical, right? But the meaning? They are worlds apart.
And you have to understand, this wasn't for some fluff piece. This mistake happened in a story about the aftermath of the horrific school shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. I mean, can you imagine? In a moment of such intense national grief, the pressure to get every single detail right is just immense.
So, what is sitting Shiva, anyway? Well, it's a really important tradition in Judaism. It's a formal 7-day period of mourning for the dead. So, getting this wrong, it's not just like spelling a name incorrectly. It's completely missing the core ritual of grief that the story was supposed to be about.
Okay, so this makes you wonder, right? How on earth does an error like this slip past all the editors at a huge news outlet like the AP? The answer to that question actually tells us a whole lot about the unique challenges of reporting on religion.
So, let's get into it. First, we have to understand a little bit about the world of religion reporting. Yeah, it's a real thing. It's called the religion beat. But it's not just one kind of journalist covering these stories.
And man, this beat is huge. It's not just one thing. We're talking hard, breaking news, but also feature stories, commentary, really deep analytical pieces. The range of what falls under religion reporting is just massive.
So because the beat is so broad, you basically get two kinds of reporters covering it. On one hand, you've got your specialists. These are the folks who live and breathe this stuff. They have a ton of deep specialized knowledge. But then, on the other hand, you have the generalists. These are journalists who could be covering a city council meeting one day, and then boom, they're thrown into a complex religious story with basically zero prep time.
And that right there, that's how mistakes like the sitting Shiva one often happen. A general reporter gets sent to cover a breaking tragedy, maybe it's a prayer vigil after a disaster, and suddenly they have to become an expert on really complex traditions and words, all while on a crushing deadline.
So what's the fix? How can a reporter who isn't a specialist avoid making these kinds of mistakes? Well, it turns out it can often boil down to asking one super simple but really powerful question.
Yeah, how do you get past just the surface level stuff? How do you get to what's really driving the story?
Well, Mitchell Atencio, who's a news editor at Sojourners, has some great advice. He says the number one tip he gives is to ask people for their religious why.
The religious why. What does that even mean? It's all about motivation. What's behind the action? Is it a specific passage from Scripture? Is it a long-held tradition? Or maybe a core teaching or a communal value? That's the why, the reason people are doing what they're doing.
See, a lot of reporters, especially ones without much experience in this area, they get stuck on the basics, the who, what, when, where. They'll tell you that a vigil happened, but they totally miss the chance to ask why those particular rituals or prayers are being used. And that's where the real story is. That's where the genuine insight is hiding.
Okay, so this one little question makes for better reporting. Got it. But what's really interesting is why this matters to you, the person reading or watching the news. Let's break that down. If you take one thing away from this, let it be this right here. Basic, mundane reporting just gives you the who, what, where. But great, nuanced reporting, it adds the why. It seems like such a small thing, but honestly, it changes the entire story.
Because as soon as a reporter asks why, the story just comes alive. It's not just a boring list of events anymore. Suddenly, it's this fascinating window into belief, into what drives people. It's the difference between just saying, a group of people gathered, and explaining the deeply meaningful, maybe even ancient traditions that brought them to that exact spot.
And this is the payoff for you. Once you know to look for the why, you become a much smarter news consumer. You can start to tell the difference between a superficial story that's just skimming the surface and one that's actually giving you real, genuine insight.
So I'll leave you with this challenge. The next time you're reading a news story that has anything to do with religion or belief, just ask yourself one question. Did the journalist find the why?